Keep safe. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day in downtown Madison, and I'm delighted to have you all here as we officially cut the ribbon on this new bike facility. I want to start by thanking a whole bunch of people. This project has been some years in the making, which means that a lot of people have worked on it. I'm not going to name all of them, but there's a whole bunch of people in traffic engineering and planning as well that have been part of making this possible. Not to mention the folks at Madison Bikes who helped to advocate for separated facilities, not just here but across our entire community, and our downtown stakeholders as well, who are always supportive of us having multimodal transportation options to help people get to and around downtown. So thank you all for being part of it, and thanks of course to the City Council for their support in helping to fund these projects, because as we all know, it doesn't get done if you don't have the money to do it. This project has been multi-phase, and it has been about 10 years in the making over the many phases. And it is an important connection for our downtown. The Wilson Street connection helps to connect downtown with John Nolan Drive, and also some of our primary bike trails throughout the city, including the Cap City Trail and the Southwest Path. So it's a key connection for folks that want to not just go around downtown on the John Nolan path, but actually come up here into the middle of everything, and I don't know, perhaps visit the farmer's market, which I hope you all will do after we finish here today. Some tasty treats over there. And so starting in about 2018, this Wilson Street cycle track was completed through a series of phases as we went through some major reconstruction and or resurfacing projects in the corridor. And I know that it has felt, or at least it has felt to me, like, okay, there's a path, but where does it go? When the first phases were under construction. And it's really gratifying to see now the full connection, and that you don't end up sort of dropped out into nowhere anymore, but you actually can connect all the way along the corridor. It's really nice to see. And that's the virtue of planning, right? These engineers actually know what they're doing. You know, we've always had a bike-friendly city for decades, but sometimes we didn't have as many options as we wanted to get downtown, and this will really enhance, particularly from that side of the city. It will give people a way to come in to downtown from that direction. And we have a lot of shared lanes or side lanes, and then we have some steep hills, which for people who are not, let's say, seasoned bikers like myself — I'm not saying I'm a seasoned biker, I'm saying I'm an unseasoned biker — those hills can be intimidating, or riding in with traffic can be intimidating sometimes. So it's really nice to have a separated facility that provides a safe option for people of all abilities and all ages. This joins part of our bigger network. We currently have about 85 miles of off-street paths and protected bikeways, and more than 157 miles of bike lanes and bike boulevards. So we are continuing to build on our platinum biking status, with making sure that we have the right facilities in the right places as part of our Complete Green Streets plan. And we're working on this in part because we want to make sure that Madison streets are safe for everyone, and most particularly vulnerable users like pedestrians and bicyclists. And we want to make sure that no matter how you choose to travel, that you have a safe and easy experience, particularly to get downtown and to all of the amenities that downtown offers. So while we're celebrating today, I think it's important to acknowledge that this is not the end of the work. We're completing a project, but we have many more projects to come to make sure that our city is safe and accessible for everyone, and that everybody can choose whatever mode of travel they like, and can do so safely in Madison. Thank you again for being here, and now it's my pleasure to bring to the podium somebody who thought she could retire and get away from us, But we have brought her back, at least temporarily, Renee Calloway.
Thank you. So I'm excited to be invited back to the city. I come here today as a 34-year resident of the city of Madison and a recent retiree who gets to enjoy the great amenities of this city much more now, but also as someone who worked on this project as a part of my job at the City of Madison in traffic engineering. When I moved from planning department to traffic engineering, this was one of the first things that I worked on was what we call a corridor study, which is basically creating the blueprint for this phased construction that you see here in front of us. It was exciting to work on this project because I really saw the passion that our residents have for the downtown and how invested they are in making it the best possible place to live, to work, to visit. And we saw that in many meetings that we held, particularly since we were rolling out something that was new to our city, this two-way cycle track. We had heard the need to get into downtown safely by biking. We had heard from pedestrians there were a lot of cyclists uncomfortable trying to get to their destinations, riding on the sidewalks, and it wasn't very accommodating of that. There are a lot of visitors driving into our downtown for the first time. And so we wanted to really take in all that feedback to build the best possible project for the future and really reimagine what this street could be. We had input from so many people, but luckily we had the support of our elected officials, of our boards and committees, and really diving into this and taking time to get it right. We brought in national experts who had worked on building these in other cities to make sure that we were thinking through all the different aspects to make this work as best that it could. And as someone who used to ride the first part of the project every day to work, it was so nice to have that two-way facility, to not be mingling in with traffic, and just be able to easily come downtown. And now I love it because I can come to the farmer's market, I can go out to eat any time of the day and know that I can get downtown quite easily. I know that there are a lot of challenges in new things, and I love that our city takes them on. And as a recent retiree who wants to age in place here in this city, I love the focus on walking, biking, transit, and driving safety, because I know that those are all modes that I use, but maybe someday I'm not going to be able to say drive, but I hope that I'll still be out there, maybe on my e-tricycle, getting around the city and enjoying all that it has to offer. And I think that's why I'm happy to be here today and came back, and excited to turn it over to one of the elected officials who was maybe more meetings than he wished to have on one project, but stuck with us and saw it through to the end, and that is our downtown Alders Revere.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much, Renee, for your kind introduction, and thanks for all the amazing work you did to see this reality come to fruition here. It's another great day for the downtown on this beautiful day. Let me say that it was an absolute pleasure most of the time to work on this project, as you've heard, many years in the making. From my recollection, it really started with, believe it or not, a bunch of water main breaks in the 300 block of West Wilson Street. And it was those series of water main breaks that encouraged us to really look at reconstructing the Wilson Street corridor, speeding up the timeline as aggressively as possible. And that led to this multi-phase Wilson Street corridor that has now been completely reconstructed over many years. Of course, most of you are gathered today to celebrate the cycle track feature of the completion of this corridor, and rightfully so. It's a tremendous asset that connects our Southwest Path to the Capital City Trail, helps folks with all ages and abilities take advantage in a very safe fashion of all the downtown has to offer. You don't have to worry so much about the Monona Terrace elevator breaking down, as it's been down a little this week. Unfortunately, a little more often than I'd like, and many of you would like. But let me also just say that this wasn't easy. As Renee alluded to, there were a lot of skeptics about the introduction of a cycle track. A lot of folks that were not excited about having a cycle track outside their front door that are my neighbors downtown. I'd like to think, and I do believe, that over time the cycle track amenity has grown on folks. They've come to embrace it, they've come to like it. Obviously I know that so many, thousands and thousands of people have taken tremendous advantage of it as we've implemented it in phases over these many years. Besides the cycle track, though, as I alluded to earlier with the water main, one reason why this took so long is because, of course, this wasn't just creating a cycle track and that was it. This was a total street reconstruction, practically from all the way from Bassett Street to Blair Street. And constituents would often say to me, why is this taking so darn long? Why is this taking years and years and years? And I have to remind folks that it's not only just resurfacing the street and improving the sidewalk and ped bike amenities, it's actually replacing all the subterranean utilities, the sanitary sewer, the stormwater, the sewer, the water mains, the laterals. All of that in this area was, in many cases, over 100 years old and needed to be replaced. Thus the impetus, at least in my mind, of fighting to get the street reconstructed because of those water main breaks. And so this did take a lot of time. So there absolutely are a lot of people to thank today, and so many of you gathered here are to be thanked. And I worked closely with many of you to see this project to fruition. But first I want to thank my neighbors for their patience through years and years of construction, through, as Renee alluded to, years and years of meetings. We had numerous public meetings, numerous focus groups, small groups with all the institutions you see in this corridor, and it was many, many years in the making. So I really want to thank the neighbors, past and present, that live in this Wilson Street corridor for all of their valuable input and, again, for their patience through the construction of this. We're not done yet. As some of the engineers behind me know, we still have a few things that need to be finished. For example, undergrounding the utilities completely down on Wilson Street. The corner of King and East Wilson still needs to be finished, among other things. But we're pretty much done, thus the ribbon cutting today. I could think and be endless in naming folks and get myself in trouble by forgetting people, but I do want to shout out two names in particular from our talented city staff, who I worked very, very closely with on this, as many of us, of course, did. And they are our former transportation director, Tom Lynch, and our city engineer, Jim Wolf. Within the first few weeks of Tom becoming our transportation director years ago, one of the first projects he worked on was this Wilson Street corridor study. And he frankly had a lot of tough public meetings. He frankly had to educate us downtown on what a cycle track is, even though we had a kind of a pilot cycle track on North Bassett Street between Gorham and Johnsonville, between Gorham and Dayton Street. The reality is that most folks weren't familiar with the cycle track. As I said earlier, there wasn't a lot of excitement by the folks that live on the street about a cycle track. And Tom got us through those rough spots, through those early meetings. He stressed why it was so important to have a infrastructure that helps folks with all ages and abilities. And then Jim Wolf was the implementation guy. So I see Tom Lynch as the visionary, the guy that planned, worked so hard on the corridor study, and then Jim Wolf, well before the mayor brilliantly appointed him and gave him a promotion as our city engineer. Jim was a frontline engineer working on downtown projects. Tremendous pleasure always working with Jim. And he was a project manager for the first phases of this corridor implementation. And even after his promotion, he stuck with it, and still to this day is dealing with issues like undergrounding here on West Wilson Street. So I just want to, admittedly those are the folks at the top, of the organizational chart, if you will. But just say for every Tom and Jim, there are dozens of other talented city staff that worked on this, so many of you that are here today, this morning, celebrating, not to mention all the contractors we had completing this project over the many, many years. I also certainly want to appreciate all of the advocacy that so many of you did. I think most of the folks here are from Madison Bikes, at least the folks I know. And so if it wasn't for the advocacy of Madison Bikes and others, I don't know that this day would have come as quickly as it did, despite it admittedly being many years in the making. So lastly, let me just say that we aren't done yet. I'm very excited, even though the construction phase isn't as exciting, but I'm very excited to see in only a couple short months the John Nolan Drive reconstruction beginning, which will very importantly provide even safer connectivity between the popular Capital City Trail and Southwest Path, connect my neighbors downtown to the beauty and amenity of Lake Monona, particularly redesigning and implementing the plan for the reconstruction of the intersection of Broome and John Nolan and North Shore is going to be just, I think, a game changer. Just as the cycle track here has been, the cycle track on Broome Street, the protected bike lanes on Bassett Street have been. So again, my thanks to one and all for all of your excellent work here. With that, it's my distinct pleasure of introducing someone that probably doesn't need any introduction, someone that I consider Mr. Downtown, and that's Downtown Madison Incorporated President Jason Ilstrup.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I'm Jason Ilstrup with Downtown Madison, Inc., and we want to celebrate this fantastic project. But I gotta say, in the 15 minutes since this press conference has started, it proves the importance of this project. We've had walkers with strollers, we've had bikers, we've had buses, we've had delivery vehicles, and a train even go by, all right here. This really is the center of our community. This is more than just a corridor. It's a connection point where people come together. They attend events like Dane Dances at the Monona Terrace. They go to the farmers market on the square right here on Wednesdays. They do everything they need to do right here. But this point allows for more connections throughout the city, through the Southwest Trail, to the Cap City Trail, to our road infrastructure, and to potential future projects. This corridor really matters so much. It matters for the residents of this city, but it also matters for the visitors. And I think it's apropos we're having this press conference today with one of the biggest weeks for visitors in our year, with Epic User Group happening right now, many of them enjoying this corridor. Importantly, this project really helps with safety and accessibility in and around the downtown. And as a bike commuter, I use it all the time. It truly did unlock the paths both east and west into the city and through the isthmus. It also really does a lot for the ongoing development of downtown, and much of that development is happening right here on Wilson Street. In the last 5 years alone, 850 new apartment buildings have been built on Wilson Street, with another 600 in the works right now. There are also 325 hotel rooms, an amazing new food hall which will open up this October in 109. We have an incredible placemaking project just down the street at Lakefront Porch, and many new amenities will be coming in the future. What we're really excited about, though, is the future. This corridor allows for even more development and a couple of catalytic projects that will forever change the downtown. First and foremost is the new Madison Lakeway project. Thanks to the city and their brilliance about this long-term plan for the new waterfront, they were able to put an easement off of Wilson Street to allow for better access. And then 109 in their project, which just opened, also did the same. This will be the gateway to the new Madison Lakeway project into the downtown. So even more people will use Wilson Street as a connection point. That doesn't include some of the massive projects that will happen over the next few years, including the state sale of the building just behind us right now, the state office building, and a reimagined what that building could be and the vibrancy and the life that could happen. So I want to say a huge thank you to the City of Madison, the mayor, the team at the engineering Department of Transportation, and in particular, Alders for making this project happen. Downtown is absolutely economically stronger, more equitable, vibrant place to live, work, and visit because of corridors like this. It's my honor to bring back on Mayor Rhodes Conway to the podium.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone. I just want to end by saying another round of thank yous again to all of the staff that worked on this, to all of the advocates who asked for it, to all of the neighbors who put up with the construction, and not least the development projects along the Wilson Street corridor who were very gracious in figuring out how we were going to maintain access while they constructed and did what they needed to do, but while people still needed to get back and forth. It has been a long 10 years, but we're very excited to have gotten to this point, and we are going to cut a ribbon now. So let's bring out the ribbon and the scissors, and we're going to take away the podium.